So here's what we do know, as research shows us. We know that teachers, when teachers know the expectations, they know how to grow. They know what to do to grow. Okay, and I'm certain that there are so many teachers in this room who are just absolutely phenomenal, top-notch, some of the best teachers in the state. But there's always room to grow. Okay, there's always that area to be able to find and grow on. When I first became a baseball coach, my first year of teaching, I had another coach who was a big influence in my life. He said, whatever your team's weakness is, find it and work on it and work on it and work on it, and don't stop focusing on it until it becomes your team's greatest strength. When it does, find your team's greatest weakness and work on it and work on it and work on it until it becomes your team's greatest strength, and keep doing that. Well, I did do that, but I also started doing that in my own career in teaching. I started doing that as well. And then when I became a principal, I looked at my building and I tried to determine what our greatest weakness was. And I focused on it and worked and worked and worked until it became a strength. And so that's just kind of been a philosophy that I've had ever since that was told to me. And I think the PDP plan is a perfect setup for that. So don't just pick a goal that is going to be the easiest for you to complete, the easiest for you to just do check marks. A lot of times it's very popular to pick a goal that fits right in line with something you're already doing. And if that's the case, and what you're already doing is an area of weakness you need to grow on, fine. But this really needs to be a focus on, this is where I need to grow. This is what I need to do to get better as a teacher. This is what I need to do so that my kids, my students, can perform better in my classroom. I look back, my very first year of teaching, it was like October, and we had a staff meeting, and the principal said, your goals are due next week. Well, this is the first I had heard of any goals, so I went to my mentor, and I said, what are these goals? What do I do? And she said, well, you have to come up with 3 goals. And so we sat down, and one of the goals she suggested to me as a first-year teacher would be to wear a tie once a week for the whole year, to look professional. So I was like, okay, so I put that down. I'm going to wear a tie at least once a week throughout the whole year. And I did, and I achieved that goal that year. I wore a tie at least once a week for the whole year, and by golly, I can't tell you that my students improved because of it. I'm sure it had no impact on learning in my classroom. That was a waste of a time goal. However, the next year, we got a new principal, and he told me that my goals were due. So what did I do? I turned in the same goals I did the year before. I mean, it was a new principal, he didn't know. And so I just kind of played the game that way. And then I got to Lathrop, and I'm just being honest. I've been there. I did the tricks too. But then I got to Lathrop, and all of a sudden I had to do a SMART goal. And so I researched a SMART goal. I wrote the goal out. And it was good too. I can't remember what it is right now, but I mean, it met all of those categories of a SMART goal. In fact, the principal even used it as an example in a staff meeting to say, this is what I want your goals to look like. And then in December, I had an observation, and we were discussing our observation afterwards. And all of a sudden, he pulled out my goals. And he goes, I want to see where you're at on progressing towards your goals. And I couldn't remember what they were. Because I'd been accustomed to turning that goal in and never seeing it again. That's what I'd been doing for 3 years at the school I was at prior to that. I was like a deer in the headlights. Right? And so then I got to work and started achieving the goal that I had set. And then the next year, obviously, I knew what to do. So that's kind of more what this is. This is going to be, for the most part, it is a SMART goal. It's going to be something that's attainable, measurable, all of those things. But there is a mid-year review, Okay, so in the middle of the year, you're going to sit down with your principal and you're just going to have a discussion over the data and you're going to check your progress towards your goal. Okay, and then at the end of the year, you're going to turn your goal in. Also, and I always say this whenever I do a PDP, if you do everything your principal tells you to do, and at the end of the year, when your goal is turned in and there is a bad score, that's your principal's fault. That's not your fault. This is going to be a working, living document. And how I did it with my teachers when we used Nee in my building was they would write their goal and email it to me. I would look at it, make suggestions, email it back. They would email, and it was just kind of a back and forth. We'd also sit down and look at it together. And then once I put the stamp of approval on it, they went for it. And then we had the mid-year review where we checked on it. And then we had the end of the year review. And if they did everything that they were told to do on it, they were fine. So it's not anything really to worry about as far as getting a bad score on. I mean, you guys are professionals, you know how to do this. So it's just this is what I need to focus on, and this is where I need to go. All right, so let's kind of start looking at that first box, box A. And to me, this is a little bit backwards because where I think you guys need to start at, the very first thing you need to look at is your individual PD goal. So all of you, I'm going to use this example up here. It's the Karen Stotler example, and I think some of you have, I'm not sure which color the Karen Stotler example is on your table. Is it blue? All right, so if you can grab the blue one, you guys, if there's not enough, you can share it. I think there's some more up here. But I'm going to go ahead and go through this one. To me, this one is a perfect example of a simple yet effective professional development plan. So this individual was an elementary math teacher, and so they decided, based on their evaluations from the year before, they said, I would like to improve teaching strategies that promote critical thinking and problem solving as demonstrated by improved Nee ratings in classroom observations from an average of a 4 to an average of a 5. Okay, so there's your SMART goal. All right, sustainable, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, all of those things. So, and you can see it all in that example of a goal. So that is her goal. So then she goes up and she decides, how am I going to fit this then in the district CSIP goal? So she goes into the CSIP goal and she finds where it can fit in. And she goes into the, some schools have a BSIP. I know that my first year at Lathrop, we didn't have a BSIP yet. And so we just had a couple building goals that we set as a building. So they just kind of fit it in under one of those. And if they came up with a goal that didn't necessarily fit under one of those, but I thought was a good goal, I just had to leave it blank. Okay? It's not, don't try to overthink things. If you're, don't try to force a square peg in a round hole. If you're having some issues with something like that, then talk to your principal. It's okay to kind of leave it blank for a year. And then the next box, what does it say? Make sure it says, indicators to be addressed. And she just has critical thinking and problem solving. All right, so sometimes teachers want to do this. They want to say, well, I'm going to improve critical thinking and problem solving in my classroom. But that's also going to end up improving cognitive engagement, which is really going to end up improving 5.3B effective engagement, which is probably also going to end up improving form. Don't do that. You're going to end up going through all of the indicators. Stay focused, okay? Look at that. This is a focus on 4.1 for her. That's her indicator, okay? In some cases, you might have a goal where it's going to strongly address 2 indicators, but I would put more than 2 on that two indicators, or the indicators to be addressed. I think you start getting more than that, it starts to get convoluted a little bit. So that's kind of your focus area. All right, I'm trying to make sure are there any questions on this part, on element A? That's kind of the setup. It really kind of starts to all fall in place once you decide what it is you're going to do. But we recommend that your goal that you're going to have is based off of data. For this example, her data was her evaluations from the year before. All right, she wanted to go from a 4 to 5 in critical thinking. Your data may be, these formative assessments are showing that these group of kids that I have are struggling in this certain area, so I want to raise the proficiency of these kids in this standard. All right, so you can kind of look at that data, and then you're going to set your plan from there. I know in the past, school districts have had teachers do 3 goals a year. This is 1 goal, okay? It's 1 goal, but you're going to have at least 3 ways that you're going to achieve it. Does that make sense? So my teachers, because I ended up taking over being a head principal in the building that I was teaching at, and so SMART goals had been the process for years. When we started doing this, they actually found it more user-friendly, not as cumbersome as doing the SMART goal, and easier to achieve a goal when there was only one, that you're going to achieve it in 3 ways rather than having 3 goals that you kind of start to lose track of as the year goes on. And I know we all start the year with these grand ideas, and you plan, and everything is just perfect, and what you're going to achieve is perfect, and then the kids show up and they ruin everything. All right, so that's kind of always seems to be the case, and so try to keep it focused. If you are somebody, let's say you're struggling in 4.1 critical thinking, and somebody else is too, pair up, do the PDP together, okay? And kind of write it together. You're both trying to achieve the same goal. There's going to be power in numbers, all right? There was a teacher that I was working with in a district, and she said, well, I really wanted to do critical thinking 4.1, but that was the example you showed, so now I can't do it. And I was like, what? Why can't you do it? And she's like, well, I can't think of anything else to do other than what you showed in the example, and I don't want to steal it. And I was like, steal it! Use it. Raise your hand if you as an educator have ever broken the law with the copyright law. Have you ever broken a... Okay, those of you who are not raising your hand, you're lying. We've all done it, okay? So if you can steal something that is good, steal it and use it, okay? Work smarter, not harder, right? Because in the end, you're still going to get better at using critical thinking in your classroom. And that is one of the highest effect sizes that you can have on improving student learning in your classroom. So do it, all right? So there's a specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely. All right. Box B. Any questions on box A before I move on though? Okay. Box B. I'm gonna let you guys take a second to look at box B, look it over, I'm gonna get your blood.
Which one is box B? Oh. Okay.
Okay, on this one here, this is basically the box that you're going to look at, and this is how you're going to achieve the goal. All right. So basically, the first box is this is my goal, and then you're going to talk about this is how I'm going to achieve my goal, and then as we go on, we're going to say this is how I know if I achieve my goal. All right. So for her, the things she's going to do: one, she's going to complete Module 2, teaching critical thinking skills. And she sets a date. I'm having trouble reading that. Does anybody have an extra blue one? Thanks. And then she just basically kind of goes through. She's going to, she's going to participate in a book study called Worksheets Don't Grow Dendrites by Marsha Tate. She's going to start using those types of activities in her classroom that's going to help to improve. And then she says that she's going to visit a master teacher to observe critical thinking and problem solving strategies in the classroom. And she's going to go there, she's going to learn, she's going to get better, she's going to implement that in her classroom. She's also going to, on that one, I think that's the EdHub one, she's going to complete the modules on EdHub. By the beginning of next year, we will have professional development on EdHub for every category, for every indicator on the big 8, the ones that we consider the 8 that are the most effective in classroom. You guys are using all of the ones you guys are using are within that big 8. So so she goes through and she just basically lays it out. This is how I'm going to complete my goal. Now, a part of the rubric, which will be shared with you, your principals will give you the rubric on how this is going to be scored. There is a section where they score how are you using collaboration to achieve your goal? How are you using student engagement to achieve your goal? What kind of differentiation are you going to use to achieve your goal? And is there going to be any family and community involvement to achieve your goal? So she goes through and lists it out in collaboration. She's going to do the book study. And she's going to collaborate with 2 to 3 other teachers in her building. If you are somebody who is working with somebody else because they have a same weakness in as far as your indicators go, and you guys have that commonality, that's going to be collaboration. You can definitely put that in there. Student engagement. So obviously student engagement is one of the highest effect sizes. So in your classroom, student engagement, what kind of things are you going to be using to kind of help achieve that goal? Differentiation. Marsha Tate's strategies are varied for learners with varied learning styles to promote differentiation. Pretty simple. I mean, we all know that those strategies she's going to be using in her classroom are going to hit those different kids at different levels. Family and community involvement. I plan to share some of the projects that are generated in concert nights and portfolio fashion. Students will get extra credit for bringing by you guys do a lot of different stuff that you use, parent, family, community. Any of the ways you communicate with parents works with that. Anytime if you're bringing anybody in from the community to work with the kids, that kind of works too. Sometimes in A, B, C, and D, depending on your goal, sometimes it can be kind of tough to fill in. I recommend that if your goal does not align at all with family or community involvement, talk with your principal. Don't just try to put something down there that's kind of, BS. Just go ahead and talk with your principal, and if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Try to make it, we don't want this to be anything to feel like it's just a check mark or a hoop to jump through. We want everything to have a purpose behind it. And we also know that we're trying to do a one-size-fits-all with this PDP plan. And sometimes I think we maybe push that too much, but we all know that in education, one size doesn't fit all. So if there's a way you need to kind of adapt it to make it work for you, work with your administrator and do that. Don't try to force something that's not there. Does that make sense? All right. I mean, this is a good example where she does fill in those things, but 1, 2, and 3, and then A, B, C, and D are basically, this is how I'm going to get there. Are there any other questions on that? I know that there are other examples on your table as well, and that I sent for you to kind of look through. We also, on our Nee website, if you go to Nee, and then you go to our resources page, you can find some other examples there to try to help you write your PDP plan, get some ideas of what other people have done, so on and so forth. All right, and then the next box, it says data used to determine need. Well, in this case, it was teacher evaluations. All right. For you guys, it could be the data, your student data from your different formative assessments. You might have, I had a reading teacher at my middle school who was, she set a goal to take this certain group of kids who were reading at a certain grade level. I think she was teaching 7th graders. I think she took all kids who were reading at a 5th grade or below and set a goal on getting them up to a higher, she was just going to work with just those kids, getting them up to a higher reading level by the end of the year. So that was her data, was the STAR reading test. There's all kinds of data you can use. You can use math testing data from the previous year. You can use your own data that you create. There's a lot of data out there that you can use to help determine this is what my goal needs to be. This says research-based for PD activities. So basically what this is these are the professional development activities I'm going to do in order to achieve the goal. And she writes, 3 things out of how she's going to achieve the goal. This is just basically the research behind it, saying, this is proof that this is going to be a worthwhile cause. For me, when I was a principal, if I knew that, for example, they were going to work on using formative assessments in their class to improve classroom instruction, all right? I knew that was a research-based, process and research-based instructional strategy that works in the classroom. So I didn't necessarily need the, right here she put Tate, Marzano, Hattie. To me, sometimes that's just busy work. For me, I was, just right in that part, I'm using research-based research-based activities to enhance formative learning, formative assessment in my classroom. All right, I knew that was a research-based practice. So, if you want to be able to get quick and easy access to these research-based activities, all you have to do is go to Google and type in What Works Clearinghouse, and it's going to take you to a website that has all instructional activities and the research behind it. And it'll also give you ideas on other research-based instructional activities you can use in your classroom. It's a government website, so there's lots of .govs and slashes and all that, so I can't ever remember what it is. But if you just Google What Works Clearinghouse, it'll get you there. All right, so that's an easy place to find that. Okay, are there any questions about box B and then the different boxes behind that? Box B, any questions on the, try to keep it as simple as this is my goal, element A, this is my goal, element B, this is how I'm going to get there, and then after that this is how I know if I got there. All right, box C. So on box C, you're going to be working on your goal from the start of school, And then I usually kind of try to do half my staff just before Christmas, the other half of my staff just after Christmas. And I would sit down and have a conversation with the teacher. We had the goal laid out, and we would sit and have a conversation. So, for example, on this particular example, what I would do is, with Karen Stotler, if she was a real person, I would sit down and say, okay, let's take a look at your classroom walkthroughs I've done this year, and take a look at the scores, and see if they are trending in the right direction. Are they improving? And if they are, we'll just have a discussion then on the different strategies she's using in the classroom. And I would, expect her to be able to have that discussion right away. These are the critical thinking strategies I'm using in the classroom. She would probably also bring me examples of some of the activities she's using in her classroom as data or examples of what she's doing. And we would just have that conversation. And then I would say, all right, well, let's continue the good work. Is there anything, I can do to try to help you improving even more on this goal? If she's progressing towards a goal, it'd just be kind of a good discussion and what can I do to help you? If she's not improving towards this goal, then I would be having the conversation of, okay, well, let's try to figure out what we need to do here. And the conversation would then lead to, this is what I need to do, and we would have a plan from then till the end of the year in order to get that achieved. If it's student assessment type data, then that would be the data that you would be bringing. So these are the scores that my students are getting on the STAR reading as they're going through. These are the scores that my students are getting on the STAR math. They're improving in this and this and this. They're not improving in this. All right. Data is a powerful tool that allows us to be able to surgically get down into where it is that we need to improve with our students. So, any questions on that, on the mid-year review? And then the end-of-year review is just kind of basically the same thing as the mid-year review. It's done. All right. It's I haven't reached my goal or I have not reached my goal. I want one thing to kind of be clear on this part. If you work really hard to attain your goal and you don't get there, it doesn't mean you're fired. Okay. Sometimes that's a misunderstanding. One year I didn't reach my goal when I was at Lathrop, when I was teaching. And we just had kind of the discussion of that the goal was probably maybe set a little too high. And then the next year I kept that same goal and did achieve it the next year. So that's, just because you don't reach the goal doesn't mean that everything you did that year wasn't worthwhile. That's not necessarily the case at all. I know that with my teachers, that was one of the biggest arguments I had with them was at the beginning of the year, they would try to set their goals too high. And I would have to kind of talk them back a little bit. They would want 95% proficiency on, whatever standards that they were going to try to focus on that year. And like, well, okay, they were 65% last year proficient in this. Let's maybe try to do 75% this year. And then maybe the next year, 85%. All right? It's okay that if you don't achieve the goal, that you kind of keep that same goal for the next year. You just develop different ways of trying to achieve that goal. All right? You put more emphasis into it, you find other things to do to try to get there. But if you do achieve the goal, then that's really good. And if you want to, in this case, she could keep that same goal for the next year and try to get from a 5 to a 6 on critical thinking on her walkthroughs. Or try to get from that 75% proficiency to 85% proficiency. It's definitely something you can build on and keep growing on year by year by year by year. So that's kind of pretty much it in a nutshell as far as the PDP plan goes. Utilize your resources to try to make it easier. Look on EdHub. Try to see whatever goal it is that you achieve. Look on there and find some activities that will be able to help you achieve that goal, because that for those 3 steps on how to achieve a goal, using something on EdHub should be one of your steps, because that's going to be one of the easiest things. Now, EdHub has been not so user-friendly and a little bit difficult to operate in if you've gotten in there. We're working on that. We're actually going to have a new website next year for Nee. And it kind of, basically what happened is we had a little web designer on campus called Osita, who's been our technology partner in this Nee program. And they were fantastic when we were 50 to 100 schools. But now that we're over 250 schools, they just don't have the manpower to be able to keep up. And so, with the demand, so we're actually having a company out of Texas. They're going to be, they're currently in the process of building our new website for next year. It's going to be much more user-friendly. The reports are going to be able to understand the reports better. And then also it's going to be a single signer login. And what that means is you'll be able to log in one time, and then you from there you can go to both Nee and EdHub, and it'll all be within one category. And from what I understand, we're getting rid of the token process, where you get a token and then you have to put the token number in, and that opens up different books, and then after a while that token expires, and so you have to get another token. That's not working very well. So it's going to be just, since you're a Nee school and you're a Nee login, once you log in, everything's there. That's there. And whenever it updates, it just updates. You don't have to put in any more new tokens and stuff. So I know that there are some people who, kind of resist EdHub because it's been kind of difficult to use, but don't be afraid to put that down as one of your categories to improve on, because it is going to be much more user-friendly next year. Trying to make sure I covered all the topics. Any questions? It's funny, whenever we have big audiences like this, there's never any questions, but whenever I have like 8 people in the classroom, there's a million questions. I was at a school district one time that what they decided to do was they looked at kind of their summative reports, and like one teacher just said, my weakness is 4.1, I'm going to do my PDP plan on that. If anybody else who's doing 4.1 can meet me in my classroom. And then another teacher said, I'm doing 7.4, anybody else want to do 7.4, meet me in my classroom. So that's, obviously something that you guys could do today if you wanted to try to work on that based on your observations. That's definitely an option, but everybody does different things. Fit better in different schools, and we're not regulatory. We're not DESE. We're here to provide help and professional development when it's needed, and so. When you need help, give us a call, and we'll go from there. Yep, no problem. Thank you.